What if I told you that one of the most intriguing compounds ever studied for strengthening your immune system, protecting your cells, and even influencing how your body responds to serious diseases isn't locked away in some advanced laboratory, isn't patented, and doesn't come with a massive price tag? What if it's been right in front of us all along, growing quietly in gardens, blooming in a deep, unmistakable shade of purple? And here's the part that should make you pause. For centuries, it was dismissed as just another traditional remedy. Simple, ordinary, nothing extraordinary. But today, something is changing. Scientists, using the most advanced tools we've ever had, are taking a second look. And what they're discovering is raising questions no one expected. Could this plant influence how cells survive or don't? Could it interact with the very pathways that diseases depend on? Could something so natural be far more powerful than we ever imagined? This isn't about hype, and it's definitely not about miracles. It's about a shift in understanding, where ancient knowledge and modern science begin to meet in ways that are hard to ignore. I'm Dr. Thomas Harrison, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is where we translate cutting-edge medical research into plain, honest language that you can actually use. No hype, no filler, just the science and what it means for you. So let's get into it. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover what researchers are actually finding, why this purple flower is getting so much attention, and what it could mean for the way you think about your own health. Because once you see this, you might never look at ordinary plants the same way again. As we begin to look a little closer, that ordinary purple flower starts to feel a lot less ordinary. The plant is called Echinacea purpurea, commonly known as the purple coneflower. For generations, it has held a quiet place in traditional wellness practices. People turned to it during seasonal changes, when colds and infections were common, trusting it to gently support the body's natural defenses. And for a long time, that's where the story seemed to end. It was seen as helpful, but simple, natural, but limited. But today, something very different is unfolding. Researchers are beginning to ask deeper questions. Not just what this plant does, but how it does it. And more importantly, what's really happening beneath the surface, inside the body, at the cellular level. Because when scientists started studying echinacea with modern tools, they didn't find just one active ingredient responsible for its effects. They found a whole network, a collection of natural compounds, alkylamides, polysaccharides, and other plant chemicals, working together, not in isolation, but in coordination, almost like a system, designed to interact with multiple processes in the body at once. And that changes how we think about it entirely. Instead of a single target solution, Echinacea begins to look more like a multi-layered support system, one that may influence immune signaling, inflammation, and even the way cells respond to stress. Now, this doesn't mean it's a miracle cure, and it certainly doesn't replace medical treatment, but it does open the door to a new way of understanding something very old. A shift from seeing plants as simple remedies to recognizing them as complex biological partners. And that's where things start to get truly interesting. Because once you begin to explore what's happening inside your cells, once you understand how these natural compounds interact with your body's own systems, you start to see health in a completely different light. So in the next part of this video, we're going to break this down, step by step. What's actually inside Echinacea, how these compounds work, and why researchers are paying closer attention than ever before. Because this isn't just about a plant anymore. It's about understanding the deeper connection between nature and your body. Let's break this down simply. Imagine your body as a highly organized city. You have security systems, communication networks, repair teams, all working around the clock to keep everything running smoothly. Now, when something goes wrong, like an infection, stress, or cellular damage, this city doesn't rely on just one department. It responds as a whole system. And that's exactly how Echinacea purpurea seems to work inside the body. It doesn't act like a single target drug. It behaves more like a team. Let's meet the key players in that team. Alkylamides, the regulators. Think of alkylamides as the control center operators of your immune system. They don't just turn your immune response on or off. They help fine-tune it. Because here's the thing, your immune system isn't just about fighting harder, it's about responding smartly. Sometimes the real problem isn't a weak immune response, it's an overactive one. Too much inflammation, too much noise. Alkylamides appear to interact with special receptors in your body, almost like adjusting the volume dial. Too low? They may help bring the response up. Too high? They may help calm it down. It's balance, not force. And that balance is everything when it comes to long-term health. Polysaccharides, the messengers. Now imagine a network of alarm systems spread throughout your city. That's what polysaccharides are like. They help your immune system recognize when something isn't right and send signals quickly. You can think of them as the early warning system. When a potential threat enters the body, these compounds support communication between immune cells, helping them identify the problem and coordinate a response. Without good communication, even a strong defense system can fail. But with clear signals, the body responds faster and more effectively. Caffeic acid derivatives, the protectors. Now let's talk about protection. Every day your cells are exposed to stress, pollution, poor diet, natural metabolic processes, all of which can create what scientists call oxidative damage. You can think of this like rust forming inside the body. Over time, that damage adds up. This is where caffeic acid derivatives come in. They act like a protective shield, neutralizing harmful molecules before they can damage your cells. In simple terms, they help preserve the integrity of your cells, keeping them healthier longer. But here's where it gets truly interesting. Most supplements or compounds are studied in isolation. One ingredient, one effect. But that's not what's happening here. Inside Echinacea, these compounds don't work alone. They interact, they support each other. Alkylamides help regulate the response. Polysaccharides improve communication. Caffeic compounds protect the cells involved in the process. It's not just a reaction, it's a coordinated strategy. Like a well-trained team, each part doing its role, but all moving toward the same goal: balance, protection, and resilience. And this idea, this concept of synergy, is what's capturing the attention of modern researchers, because it suggests something deeper, that the power of this plant isn't in a single compound, but in the relationship between them. And that changes how we understand not just Echinacea, but natural compounds as a whole. So the real question becomes, if these compounds are working together at such a deep level, what does that actually mean for your body over time? And could this coordinated effect influence more than just everyday immunity? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. Let's talk about a word that sounds complex, but is actually very simple: apoptosis. In plain terms, it means programmed cell death. Now that might sound alarming at first. Why would your body want its own cells to die? But here's the truth. Apoptosis is one of the smartest systems your body has. Think of it like a built-in self-destruct button, or a cellular cleanup crew. Every single day, your body creates millions of new cells. And at the same time, it removes old, damaged, or abnormal ones. It's a constant cycle: build, repair, remove, repeat. And when everything is working properly, you never even notice it. Why this process matters so much. Imagine if broken or faulty cells were allowed to just stay. Cells that don't function properly. Cells that have been damaged. Cells that start behaving abnormally. Over time, that creates chaos. So your body uses apoptosis as a way to quietly eliminate these problem cells before they can cause trouble. It's precise, it's controlled, and most importantly, it's selective. Not random destruction, but intelligent removal. When the system breaks down, now here's where things get more serious. Some abnormal cells don't follow the rules. Instead of responding to the body's signals, they ignore them. Instead of shutting down, they keep going, growing, dividing, surviving longer than they should. This is one of the key characteristics seen in conditions involving abnormal cell growth. Not because the body isn't trying, but because those cells have found ways to avoid apoptosis. They've essentially disabled their own self-destruct system, and that changes everything. So where does Echinacea come in? This is where the conversation becomes fascinating. Some emerging research suggests that compounds found in Echinacea purpurea may interact with the pathways involved in apoptosis. Now let's be very clear. This is not about a miracle cure, and it's not about replacing medical treatments, but it is about understanding how natural compounds might support the body's existing systems. Instead of attacking cells directly, the idea is something more subtle: supporting signals that encourage damaged or abnormal cells to follow their natural life cycle, while allowing healthy cells to continue functioning normally. Think about that for a moment. Not a blunt force approach, not destroy everything, but a kind of guidance, helping the body do what it was already designed to do. Some of the compounds we discussed earlier, like alkylamides and caffeic acid derivatives, are being studied for how they may influence these internal signaling pathways. Almost like restoring communication, reminding certain cells, it's time. A smarter way to think about cellular health. When you look at apoptosis this way, it changes your perspective. Health isn't just about adding more supplements, more stimulation, more activity. Sometimes it's about removing what no longer belongs, quietly, efficiently, naturally. And supporting that balance between growth and removal may be one of the most important aspects of long-term well-being. But this is only one piece of the puzzle, because apoptosis is just one mechanism, one pathway, one part of a much larger system happening inside your body every second. So the next question becomes, if this plant can interact with how cells end their life cycle, could it also influence how cells survive, communicate, or respond to stress? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. Now let's simplify something that sounds complicated, but follows a very human logic: the NF-kappa B pathway. Think of this pathway as a survival switch inside your cells. Or better yet, imagine it as an emergency system. When your body detects stress, like infection, injury, or inflammation, this system turns on. It sends signals that say, protect yourself, stay alive, respond quickly. And in normal situations, this is a good thing. It helps your body heal. It helps cells survive tough conditions, and once the problem is resolved, the switch turns off. Simple, controlled, balanced. But what happens when the switch gets stuck? Now imagine an emergency alarm that never stops ringing, even when there's no fire. That's what can happen with the NF-kappa B pathway in certain abnormal cells. Instead of turning on when needed and off when the job is done, it stays on, constantly. And that changes everything. Because now the signals being sent are no longer helpful, they become part of the problem. These cells are essentially being told, keep growing, don't shut down, resist any threat. Over time, this creates a survival advantage. Not a healthy one, but a persistent one. Cells begin to grow more than they should. They become harder to remove. They stop responding to normal regulatory signals. It's not just growth, it's uncontrolled survival. Why this matters. Your body is built on balance, growth and removal, activation and rest, response and recovery. But when a pathway like NF-kappa B stays active for too long, that balance is disrupted. It's like pressing the accelerator in a car without ever touching the brakes. Eventually, something goes wrong. This constant activation has been linked in research settings to prolonged inflammation and abnormal cell behavior. Not because the system is bad, but because it's being used at the wrong time, in the wrong way. So where does Echinacea fit into this? Here's where things become especially interesting. Some studies suggest that compounds found in Echinacea purpurea may interact with this very pathway, not by attacking cells directly, but by influencing the signals that control them, helping to calm down an overactive NF-kappa B pathway, supporting a return toward normal regulation. Think about that for a moment. Instead of trying to destroy the cell, you're changing the environment that allows it to behave abnormally. You're not cutting the power, you're adjusting the switch. And when that constant survival signal begins to quiet down, those abnormal cells may lose the advantage they once had. They're no longer being told to keep going at all costs. They're no longer being protected in the same way. It's subtle, but powerful. A different way to think about support. This idea represents a shift from aggressive intervention to intelligent regulation. From targeting the cell itself to targeting the behavior of the cell. And that's what makes this pathway so fascinating, because it sits right at the center of survival, inflammation, and cellular response. And influencing it, even slightly, can have ripple effects across multiple systems. But there's more to the story, because survival signals are only one part of the equation. Cells don't just decide whether to live or die, they also communicate, adapt, and respond to their environment in complex ways. So the next question becomes, if this pathway controls survival, what controls how cells respond to stress, damage, and external signals in the first place? That's where the next mechanism takes us, deeper into the story. Now let's go even deeper. Inside your body right now, there's a quiet system at work, one you rarely think about: stem cells. You can think of stem cells as your body's internal repair team, or even better, your renewal units. These are special cells with an incredible ability. They can transform into different types of cells your body needs: muscle cells, skin cells, even cells involved in healing and recovery. Whenever your body is repairing damage, recovering from stress, or simply maintaining itself, stem cells are part of that process. The hidden problem: they don't stay active forever. Here's something most people don't realize. As we age or face long-term stress, inflammation, or poor health conditions, these repair systems begin to slow down. Not because they disappear, but because many of them go into a kind of standby mode. Imagine a group of highly skilled workers, sitting in a room, waiting. They're capable, they're ready, but they're not being called into action. They become dormant, like a system that's still there but no longer fully engaged. And over time, that reduced activity can affect how well the body repairs itself. Recovery takes longer, regeneration becomes less efficient. The body feels a little less resilient. So the question becomes, what if there were ways to support this system? Not force it, not override it, but gently encourage it to function more effectively. This is where the conversation around Echinacea purpurea becomes especially intriguing. What early research is beginning to explore. Some early-stage research suggests that certain compounds in Echinacea may interact with biological signals related to regeneration. Now let's be very clear, this is not about turning back time. It's not about instant healing, and it's definitely not about miracle transformations. But it does point towards something meaningful, the possibility of supporting the body's natural repair mechanisms. Think of it like this. Instead of hiring a whole new repair crew, you're simply helping the existing one wake up and get back to work. Not forcing the system, but encouraging it. Some of the plant's bioactive compounds, working together, may influence how cells communicate, how they respond to stress, and how regenerative signals are expressed. It's subtle, but sometimes, subtle changes create powerful long-term effects. Why this matters more than we think. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, health isn't just about fighting illness. It's about maintaining the body's ability to repair, recover, and renew. And stem cells sit right at the center of that process. They represent potential, the potential to rebuild, to restore, to adapt. So when research begins to explore ways of supporting this system, even gently, it opens the door to a completely different perspective on health. Not just protection, but regeneration. A quiet kind of power. There's something almost poetic about it. A plant that grows quietly in the soil, possibly interacting with the most fundamental repair systems inside your body. Not aggressively, not dramatically, but in a way that aligns with how your body already works. And that's the key idea here. Supporting, not replacing. Assisting, not overriding. Working with the body, not against it. Bringing it all together. When you combine everything we've explored so far, apoptosis, how the body removes damaged cells, the NF-kappa B pathway, how cells control survival signals, stem cells, how the body repairs and regenerates, you start to see a pattern. This isn't about one single effect. It's about a network of support, touching different layers of how your body maintains balance. So the real takeaway isn't just about one plant. It's about understanding something deeper, that your body already has powerful systems in place, systems for protection, regulation, and renewal. And sometimes, the most important step isn't adding something new. It's learning how to better support what's already there. And that's exactly what we'll reflect on as we move into the final part of this journey. Let's start with something very real and very relatable. Every single day, your body goes through a kind of wear and tear, not the kind you can see, but the kind happening quietly, inside your cells. Breathing polluted air, dealing with stress, eating processed or unbalanced meals, even your body's own natural metabolism. All of these create tiny, invisible forms of damage. Nothing dramatic, nothing immediate, but constant. What is oxidative stress? Scientists call this process oxidative stress. But let's simplify that. Imagine leaving a piece of metal outside in the rain. Slowly, over time, it begins to rust. Not all at once, not overnight, but gradually, quietly, persistently. That's a lot like what happens inside your body. Certain unstable molecules, often called free radicals, are produced through everyday processes. And if they're not kept in check, they begin to damage nearby cells. Proteins, cell membranes, even DNA. It's like a slow, invisible pressure building up over time. Where does this damage come from? Here's the important part. This isn't something unusual. It's part of everyday life. It can come from pollution in the air you breathe, emotional and physical stress, poor or inconsistent nutrition, even normal energy production inside your cells. In other words, just living your life creates this kind of internal stress. And while your body is designed to handle it, over time, if the balance shifts too far, that's when problems can begin to develop. Not suddenly, but gradually. Why cellular protection matters. When oxidative stress builds up, it can start to affect the integrity of your cells, including your DNA. Now, this doesn't mean immediate danger, but it does mean that the body has to work harder to maintain stability, to repair, to keep everything functioning as it should. And as the years go by, That constant pressure can make those repair processes less efficient, which is why protection becomes just as important as repair. Enter antioxidants, the quiet protectors. This is where antioxidants come in. Think of them as your body's internal defense shield. Their role is simple, but powerful. To neutralize those unstable, damaging molecules. To reduce the overall burden of oxidative stress. To help preserve the health of your cells over time. And Echinacea purpurea contains compounds, like caffeic acid derivatives, that are being studied for exactly this kind of support. They don't act like a sudden intervention. They don't create dramatic overnight changes. Instead, they work quietly, stabilizing, balancing, protecting. The power of small, consistent protection. Here's something many people overlook. Health isn't only shaped by big events. It's shaped by small, repeated actions, day after day. And antioxidant protection is a perfect example of that. It's not about feeling something instantly. It's about reducing tiny amounts of damage consistently over long periods of time, like preventing that rust before it spreads. Because once damage accumulates, it becomes harder to reverse. But when you support your body's defenses early and consistently, you help maintain strength, stability, and resilience. A different kind of impact. This is not dramatic. It won't feel like a sudden transformation, but it is deeply important. Because this is the level where long-term health is shaped, quietly, patiently, over time. Bringing it all together. Now, if you step back and look at everything we've explored, apoptosis, removing damaged cells, the NF-kappa B pathway, regulating survival signals, stem cells, supporting repair and renewal, antioxidants, protecting cells from ongoing damage, you begin to see a pattern. Different mechanisms, working at different levels, all contributing to one goal: balance, protection, resilience. And that leads us to a bigger question. If a single plant can interact with so many layers of your biology, not aggressively but supportively, what does that say about the connection between nature and long-term health? That's exactly what we'll reflect on next. Here's something many people don't realize. Your immune system isn't just something that activates when you catch a cold. It's working, right now, quietly, constantly. Think of it as your body's internal defense and surveillance system, like a team of security guards, patrolling every corner, every second, without stopping. What is immune surveillance? This process is called immune surveillance, and it's one of the most important jobs your body performs every day. Your immune cells move through your bloodstream and tissues, checking, inspecting, identifying anything that doesn't belong. Damaged cells, infected cells, or cells that are starting to behave abnormally. Most of the time, they catch these cells early. They remove them, quietly, efficiently, before you ever notice anything is wrong. No symptoms, no warning signs, just protection happening in the background. Your body is doing more than you think. If you could see this process in real time, it would look like a constant flow of activity. Cells communicating, signals being sent, threats being identified and handled, all without your awareness. It's not dramatic, but it's incredibly powerful. Because this system isn't just reacting to illness, it's preventing problems before they begin. When the system slows down, now here's where things require attention, but not fear. Over time, or under certain conditions, this surveillance system can become less efficient. Not because it stops working completely, but because it becomes slower, less responsive, less precise. This can happen due to long-term stress, poor nutrition, lack of sleep, aging, or ongoing inflammation. When that happens, those security guards are still there, but they may miss things or respond a little later than they should. And when abnormal cells are not identified early, they have more time to persist, more time to grow, more time to avoid detection. A matter of balance, not fear. Now, it's important to understand this in a balanced way. This is not about assuming the worst. It's about recognizing how important this system is and how much it depends on daily support. Because your immune system is not separate from your lifestyle. It reflects it. Every meal, every night of sleep, every moment of stress or recovery, all of it influences how well this system performs. Where Echinacea fits into this picture. So when we talk about Echinacea purpurea, we're not just talking about fighting illness. We're talking about something deeper. Supporting the system that protects you every single day, As we explored earlier, Echinacea contains a network of compounds, alkylamides, polysaccharides, and others that may interact with immune signaling pathways, not forcing the immune system, but helping regulate and support it. Think of it like maintaining a security system. You're not waiting for a break-in, you're making sure everything is functioning properly, ahead of time. Clear signals, balanced responses, efficient communication between immune cells, the bigger perspective. This is where the real shift happens. From thinking about health as something you deal with after a problem appears to something you support before anything goes wrong. Because immune surveillance is not a one-time event, it's a continuous process, day after day, year after year, and small, consistent support can make a meaningful difference over time, a quiet form of protection. There's no dramatic moment here, no sudden transformation, just a quiet, ongoing process where your body is constantly working to keep you safe. And when you support that system through lifestyle, through nutrition, and through thoughtful use of natural compounds, you're not chasing quick results. You're investing in long-term resilience. So what does this all mean? When you bring everything together, cellular cleanup through apoptosis, balanced survival signals through pathways like NF-kappa B, repair through stem cells, protection through antioxidants, and surveillance through your immune system, you begin to see the full picture. Your body is not passive. It's active, intelligent, constantly adapting. And the goal isn't to control it, it's to support it. And that brings us to the final takeaway. Because once you understand how all these systems connect, you start to see health not as a reaction, but as something you build every single day. Now let's be very clear. Echinacea purpurea is not a cure for cancer. It is not a replacement for medical treatment, and it should never be used that way. That's not just a disclaimer, it's an essential truth. Because when we talk about natural compounds, plants, and emerging research, it's easy to get carried away. Easy to assume that natural means enough on its own. But serious health conditions require serious, evidence-based medical care. And nothing we've discussed replaces that. Understanding the difference. So what does Echinacea actually represent? Not a cure, not a shortcut, not an alternative to treatment, but a supportive, complementary approach. And that difference matters. Primary medical care, like diagnosis, treatment plans, medications, or therapies prescribed by doctors, is designed to directly address disease. Supportive approaches, on the other hand, they work alongside that care. They focus on strengthening the body, supporting immune function, helping maintain balance over time. It's not either or. It's about understanding where each piece fits, where natural compounds may play a role. When used responsibly and with proper guidance, plants like Echinacea may have a place in areas such as preventive health, immune system support, integrative care approaches. But even here, balance is key. This doesn't mean taking more is better. It doesn't mean using it without direction. And it certainly doesn't mean self-treating serious conditions. Instead, it means being informed, asking questions, and most importantly, working with qualified healthcare professionals who understand your individual health needs. Why professional guidance matters. Every person's body is different. Different conditions, different medications, different responses. Even natural compounds can interact with medications or may not be suitable in certain situations. That's why guidance is not optional. It's essential. A doctor, nutritionist, or qualified practitioner can help you understand what's appropriate, what's safe, and what actually supports your overall health plan. A grounded perspective. There's something powerful about combining knowledge from different worlds, modern medicine and traditional plant-based understanding. But that combination only works when it's done responsibly, without exaggeration, without unrealistic expectations, and without replacing what's already proven to work. Let's repeat this clearly, just to make sure there's no confusion. Echinacea is not a cure. It is not a replacement for medical treatment. It should never be used alone for serious conditions. What it may offer is support. And support, when used correctly, can be meaningful. The right way to think about it. Instead of asking, can this replace treatment? A better question is, how can this support my body alongside proper care? That shift in thinking changes everything. It brings responsibility, it builds trust, and it keeps you safe. Moving forward. So as we move into the final part of this video, keep this grounded perspective with you. Because understanding the potential of something is important, but understanding its limits, that's where real wisdom begins. And that's exactly what we'll bring together in the conclusion. Because maybe, The real message here is not about one plant. It's about a shift, a quiet but powerful shift in how we think about health itself. For most of us, health has been something we react to. We wait until something feels wrong, until there's discomfort, pain, fatigue, and only then we take action. But what if health doesn't actually begin there? What if it begins much earlier, in the small, everyday choices we barely notice? From reacting to building. Think about it like maintaining a home. You don't wait for the roof to collapse before you take care of it. You check things, you clean, you fix small issues before they become big ones. Health works the same way, not just reacting to illness, but building health every day through what you eat, how you sleep, how you move, how you handle stress. These don't feel dramatic in the moment, but over time, they shape everything, from quick fixes to long-term resilience. We live in a world that loves quick solutions. A pill for this, a shortcut for that. And while those solutions have their place, they're not the whole picture. Because real health isn't built overnight. It's built slowly, consistently, patiently. Like growing a tree. You don't see the roots forming, but they're what hold everything together. This is the shift from chasing quick fixes to building long-term resilience. The kind of resilience that helps your body adapt, recover, and stay strong over time. From passive care to active participation. And maybe the most important shift of all is this one. From passive care to active participation in your own well-being. Not relying entirely on external solutions, but becoming aware of your own role. Not in a stressful or overwhelming way, but in a grounded, empowering way. Simple actions, drinking enough water, choosing nourishing foods, getting sunlight, moving your body, taking time to rest. These are not complicated, but they are powerful. Where natural support fits in. And this is where something like Echinacea purpurea finds its place. Not as the center of the story, but as one small part of a much bigger picture. A supportive tool, a complementary option, something that may help when used thoughtfully, alongside a healthy lifestyle and proper guidance. Because no single plant, no single supplement can replace the foundation, but they can support it. The power of small choices. Here's the truth that often gets overlooked. Big health outcomes are built from small, repeated actions. Not once, not occasionally, but daily. A short walk, a balanced meal, a good night's sleep. These don't feel life-changing in the moment, but over months, over years, they become your health. A more empowering way to look at health. And when you begin to see it this way, health stops feeling like something fragile, something unpredictable, something outside your control, and starts feeling like something you can influence. Gently, consistently, intentionally, not perfectly, but consciously, bringing it all together. So maybe the real takeaway isn't about discovering something new. It's about remembering something simple, that your body already has incredible systems in place to protect, to repair, to adapt. And your role is to support those systems, day by day, choice by choice. And as we move into the final part of this video, let's bring everything together, not just as information, but as something you can carry with you into your everyday life. Ancient knowledge meeting modern science. A simple purple flower standing quietly in a field, revealing layers of complexity we're only just beginning to understand. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply meaningful. Because this was never really about one plant, not a miracle, not a shortcut, but a reminder. A reminder that the answers we're searching for are often not new, just newly understood. That what was once passed down through tradition is now being explored through microscopes and data, bringing two worlds together, not in conflict, but in conversation. And somewhere in that meeting point, something shifts. You begin to see health differently, not as something that suddenly breaks, but as something that is quietly shaped every single day. Through the choices you make, the habits you build, the attention you give or don't give. Because real health doesn't come from one pill, one herb, one moment. It comes from consistency, from awareness, from the small things that seem insignificant but aren't. The meal you choose, the rest you allow yourself, the way you respond to stress, the care you give your body before it asks for it. And yes, plants like Echinacea purpurea may have a place in that journey, as support, as part of a bigger picture, but never as the whole story. Because the real power has always been within your daily actions. So maybe the most important takeaway isn't what this plant can do, but what it reminds you to do. To pay attention, to stay curious, to take responsibility, gently, not perfectly, to care for your body, not only when something goes wrong, but while everything still feels right. Because in the end, health isn't built in moments of urgency. It's built in moments of awareness, quietly, consistently, over time. And the most powerful change you can make is to start noticing before your body has to ask.